You are listening to More Than a Sniff, a weekly podcast of Western States Canine College. I'm Joe, owner and principal trainer here with my colleagues Chris, Michelle, and Shannon. So today we're going to be talking about communication, and we've talked a lot about connection and all kinds of different ways to communicate with our dogs, whether it's through training or living with our dog or creating that connection. And I think that connection and communication go hand in hand, and so I'd like to talk about communicating and how we communicate with our dogs. And I'm going to kind of throw out there that the challenge this week to all of you is to stop talking to your dogs verbally and communicate non-verbally, because we as human beings tend to verbalize a lot, but really our body language says something different. So as you're listening to this and you can't see the body language, I'm going to throw some things at Shannon verbally, but my body language may or may not say what I'm saying, and then I want you, Shannon, and Chris to interpret what my body language says versus what I'm saying. So, Shannon, I really think you're a pretty cool person.
And what does the body language say about that?
I'm bad at reading body language.
Maybe. I don't know. Well, I'll just describe what the body language was. More like hunched over, like almost. It was almost aggressive to me. Like, and then looking at me in the eye. So it didn't. Even though I do know that you think I'm a cool person, the way you said that didn't make me think that you meant it.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yep. So, man, Chris, you are really sensitive, and I love that about you.
I'm in a really sensitive spot right now coming off this workshop.
Yeah.
I'm going to just step back to your body language for just a moment when you talked to Shannon.
Yeah.
What I saw in your body language was moving forward. To me, that meant subtly that you're engaged. That as opposed to you sitting back in the wingback chair right now, when you said, Shannon, you are a very cool person, and I happen to agree with that. When she did that, Joe moved forward and into you, and I took that body language as engaging, where she wanted to be closer to you. On to the sensitivity part. Thank you for that sensitivity.
Did you feel it?
I felt it. Yes, I felt it from 4 feet away.
Yeah. So, as we're non-verbally communicating with our dogs, I feel like we either tend to lie to them or we lie to ourselves about what we're trying to say.
But don't you think sometimes that we don't know that we're lying?
Oh, totally. Because I think that we see ourselves differently than what we're doing or what we're trying to do. People perceive me as bold, dominant, aggressive, scary, intimidating. That's probably like the best word that I've heard like my whole life is you're very intimidating. And to me, I'm like, geez, not really. I'm kind of the soft, passive, right? So who we see ourselves as and the way we come across is definitely that we can be lying to ourselves as well.
Not really. I said that in parenthetical, so you didn't really hear it.
I didn't.
Oh, okay, good. I don't think you're intimidated.
But do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I believe that our body language is more honest than our words.
Especially to our dogs.
Yeah. Yep.
In fact, even more critical with our dogs because our dogs cue off of our body, I think, first, not second. They're looking to see if we move, and a good example of that is, again, our oldest dog, Bora. After we have dinner, our little goofy routine is we're going to do the old Mother Hubbard routine and go to the cupboard to get the dog a bone, and he knows that.
Yeah. And
no sooner do I shift in my seat. I don't have to say anything. I just have to shift in my seat after we're done eating, and he goes running to the cupboard.
Right. Yeah. So if we are not telling our dogs what to do, Shannon, how do you think they understand and learn that?
Well, they're watching you all the time. And I was thinking about you saying that about the dog feeling like they're being tricked. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you should trick your dog, and I don't try to trick my dog. But I can tell when he thinks that I am because he gives me a signal. And so I really like that about Louis. He's the only dog that has like a super definite signal that I've owned, that he's like, I think you're trying to trick me. He lifts his little foot up. He stands there and looks at you, but he lifts his little foot up. And that's the only time that he does that, is when he thinks that you're tricking him. And so then I have to change and think about myself. What am I doing that's making him feel like suspicious, even though I'm like not trying to trick him, because I don't believe in that, And so they are watching you all the time. And so part of communicating, if you consistently communicate the same way with your dog, which usually you do because you're the same person, they start to feel what the routine is, and then they just learn what you're doing all the time. Like if you go and walk to the back door and you don't leave your house through the back door, then they're like, oh, it's time to go outside. Or, if you always go and get the leash out before you take them on a walk instead of just like leaving it all over your house or whatever, then they're like, oh, well, you got the leash, it's time to go for a walk. If I get my hiking backpack out, then the dog is like, yeah, we're going for a hike. And sometimes we're not always going for one. I might just be like cleaning it out because there's like stuff in there from last time. But he's used to, when we get it out, we go for a hike. So then he thinks that's what I'm trying to communicate with him. So you just have to be conscious of like what you do with your body all the time, what message that sends to the dog.
Mm-hmm. So, Chris, do you feel like there is a time and a place to give direction, not verbally?
Yes, yeah, of course. When you're a good example of that would be in an off-leash scenario, mm-hmm. where the dog cannot cue off of your body language. Perhaps in the most extreme, you want a formal recall for whatever reason. Maybe some horses are coming down the trail or something like that. Your dog's not cueing off of your body language because they're 15 feet in front of you, and you are going to verbally communicate that mm-hmm. recall.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, I believe with ours that we've been so consistent with our behaviors that sometimes they play off of their emotion or that feel of, I better get back to you before we even have a chance to call, because we've stayed consistent, not because, not for any other reason other than we've been consistent. We've used a verbal cue, so then every time they feel that adrenaline or that smell or whatever, they connect back to us waiting for it. I believe that you shouldn't talk to your dog any more than what's needed. And why do we feel like our dogs are so dumb that we have to tell them that it's time to go outside?
I think that's absolutely true. Recently I was around another dog trainer, and although I didn't know this person, it was almost like a recording of Joe, except in a male version. And one of the first things that this person communicated was, stop talking to them. Mm-hmm. We talk too much. But I think and this is a dog podcast, but we find that in horses too.
Yeah.
Stop talking. just let's communicate, through body language.
Right. This morning, as I brought Haley home, her body language basically said, "I'm not getting out of the truck." My expectations are when I open up the door, the dog presents themselves ready for direction, verbal or nonverbal, and she stayed hunkered clear over to the other side. Like she's not going to get out of the truck. And I didn't have a conversation with her. I didn't tell her to get out of the truck. I reached in, grabbed the leash, and showed her that this is the behavior that I'm looking for. And then, she got out of the truck. So people tend to have this conversation that it's like, come on, it's time. We've got to get in the house. We need to go. We need to, and it's this whole long drawn out conversation. And the dog, like right out of the bat, says, "I'm not getting out of the truck." And so having that, there's nothing wrong with having a, dialogue with your dog, but things should not be a conversation to convince your dog what they should be doing.
A long time ago, I had used the example of it doesn't matter what you say to your dog as long as you're excited. And in a group setting, I had demonstrated that example by choosing one of the dogs that was there and then squatting down, clapping my hands, getting all excited, and repeating the word truck. And they came over.
Yeah. Even this morning, I was teaching a group of kids at this summer camp of dog safety and dog training and how dogs think. And we actually taught Addie to lay down. But instead of saying down, we said sunglasses. And, she went down. It really doesn't matter what the word is. It's more about what our body language is communicating to them. Shannon, what are some things that you feel like are key? When you said, I don't believe in lying and manipulating, and none of that should happen to your dogs because they'll call you out on it. They understand. But what if, when you said, when my dog is questioning or asking a question of, is what you're telling me correct? And you say, I start shifting my body language around. How do you communicate to Louie when I'm pulling my backpack out to clean it versus pulling it out to go on a hike?
I try to take it to a different part of the house.
Okay.
So if I take it into, like, the office, I have an office. Mm-hmm. If I take it into the office and empty all the stuff out of it in there, as opposed to taking it in. My husband, when he gets things ready to go, he takes them in the living room and puts them on the sofa. And that's for anything that we do. If we go on a road trip, if he's getting for work, if he's getting ready for hiking, he goes and takes the stuff that he wants to remember and just, like, lines it up on the sofa. So I try to avoid putting things on the sofa because that's a set thing. If it's going on the sofa, then we're going to go somewhere and something's going to happen. So I try to take it to a different part of the room. And anytime, like, I have all my bags, I know my bags are in a drawer, which is kind of weird. And the drawer is really low to the ground. So anytime I open the drawer, then Louie's face is just, like, right in there. Yeah. What are we doing? Yeah. What's in the drawer today? So I try to have a different part of the house associated with what's happening.
Can you describe that again?
That's how Louie does. That's how he sniffs. He's my snorty guy.
This weekend we had a fair amount of people over, and we still have dogs to work and everything that we have to take care of. And one of the gentlemen that was here is a horse trainer, and he said, we'll go. I need to get the dogs in, and at our house we have expectations, but we're not giving. Like, we're not controlling the situation, right? We're not saying you come out of the dog run and you go over to the sliding glass door and you sit there and then I'm going to dictate, down to the crate. It's, everybody kind of flows in. And after the dogs have been here with us for about 3 days, they pretty much know what crate's theirs and they go down and get in. But, you have to teach them that. So for the first 3 days, I don't verbalize anything. We just take them and we we put them in. This is your crate, this is your crate, this is your crate, to stay consistent. And so, all the dogs ran in. I say all, but there was 4 of them, and they all zipped in, and they all ran into their crates and waited for the door to be closed. And he was like, do they have like crates downstairs, or how's that work? And it's not food based. We don't give treats every time you go into the right kennel, and we're not going to treat you or not treat you for going to the wrong one. It's just, no, that's the wrong one. I'm going to pull you out and put you in the correct one. And there's no verbal anything. It's just, this is what we do, and we stay super consistent with it. And then if I move their crate, then they turn and look at me like, I don't know which one to get in, because I don't know where my crate went. But it's still not a verbal communication. It's a direction more than anything. And then we let them think through the process and find that release or that reward with it. So I think one of the biggest things going into homes and training that I find is, one, we overuse the dog's name. And I don't know why that is, because we don't talk like that to human beings. And then the next thing is we over command, like, sit, sit, sit. Okay, let's go outside. Let's go. Okay, come on, let's go outside. Let's go. We're going outside. We're going for a walk. Let's go for a walk. We're going to go for a walk. And, the dogs are just like, I don't know what planet you're on, but I'm going to go do my own thing. And that's where I see that the dogs have disconnected from the owners, because the owners are just chatting, and they're giving no really even nonverbal cues. It's just this chaos that happens within a person. So I'm not sure why we struggle communicating with our dogs versus, and people struggle communicating with people, but why do you think that that's so hard, Chris? Why do you think it's easier to communicate to a person and not have to say, Chris, thanks for being here, Chris?
I actually like that. Because it's what we know. Because we haven't been taught something else. We don't know how to, we may not know how to communicate otherwise. In my experience with other dogs that I've had in my life, it has been that way. But not until not until I was taught that you don't have to communicate. I was also one of these over communicators with the dogs, because that's what you do, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes we don't know that there's other ways to communicate.
Yeah.
Perhaps I should write a letter to our dogs.
There you go. Yeah. They would like that. I think that everything that you have said today, you have the soul of a golden retriever.
Soft and squishy?
Soft and squishy.
Nice.
And I like that.
Yeah. Tomorrow we're going to be a Chihuahua.
That's right. We'll take it on, right? Shannon, what, just to kind of wrap this up as far as giving nonverbal, what would be a challenge that you would give all the dog owners and dog trainers out there?
I think the key is to try and slow down. I think that's why people over communicate or over talk, because we humans are verbal, right, communicators. And I think that when we don't know what to do or when we're nervous, we talk more. Lots of people do. And when we're trying to rush through things or get through with our day, we talk more too. And so I think the key is slowing down. I was thinking about earlier when you were saying that people say that you're intimidating. And I was thinking all the people that I know in my life that people think are intimidating are quiet. And not as quiet as a personality type, because they'll talk to you and have a good conversation, tell you a funny story, can be the life of the party, but when you initially meet them, they are slowed down. They watch the people in the room, try to figure out where everyone's place is, and then they open up to you. And so I think that's the key for you being a dog trainer, is to watch and assess the dog and use body language to communicate. And I think if people slow down, then they can find that more easily.
That is very well said. And we're going to end on that note, is to slow down and stop talking. Thank you for listening. If you want to know more about us and our services, please visit our website at www.wsk9co.com. And as always, we urge you to get out and train.